Hello, good day to you. So today I'm doing a demonstration and talk on evolving the connections between neurons for neural evolution. So the idea here is you have an AI, you have a neural network, and the starting point is all the neurons are connected to all the neurons in the previous layer. So it's all densely connected. I have a view that this causes problems because of the vanishing gradient, and at least one of the supposed methods of solving this is neural evolution. So the idea that you evolve connections and structures within the neural network, and this is meant to parallel the idea of how a brain itself has structures that deal with certain processes. And the idea here becomes by evolving not just other details about the neural network, but specific connections and structures and methods of connecting up the different neurons together, you get a better AI. So currently there are several different neural evolution algorithms out there. The two that I know of that I'm interested in, there's one done by Google where it's a substrate neural evolution model where it seems to me to be completely about robovision, but I haven't really got my head around it, so I'm only going to talk about these two. And when I say two, HyperNEAT kind of re-splits off into several different versions of the HyperNEAT algorithm. So the NEAT algorithm is the idea you start off with one input and one output, and just successively over time you add in a new neuron and add in or remove connections each time, and the number of neurons and the connections between them represents the genome of the AI, which is what we're trying to evolve. Then the strength of NEAT is that it evolves a minimal size AI to do the job. It's very efficient in that manner, but it doesn't really kind of work for really large AIs. So HyperNEAT was developed, and the idea of HyperNEAT is to build structures on each scale, on each level, which will connect down to the level below, and that these structures form the structures and patterns that are analogous to the way the human brain works, or any brain for that matter. They're not as big. And roughly speaking, a NEAT algorithm can get up to hundreds of neurons before you start to maybe have some problems, and HyperNEAT gets up to thousands. So a visual example is on the left. You might have how a HyperNEAT algorithm will split up the data, so it almost ends up with each of those blocks becomes a neural network, and only connects to the stuff below it and doesn't connect to the stuff beside it. So you sort of partition the neural network into parts. And on the right is maybe how NEAT evolves, and I think that's roughly how an XOR functions for NEAT. And you'll notice if you were to try and do a NEAT in a fully connected neural network, that is slightly smaller and uses less neurons. So theoretically it should be faster, but I haven't actually tested the two against each other to know that for sure. There might be some issues beyond that. I still think neural evolution is a complicated method for dealing with the vanishing gradient, which I still think there might be more to learn in pure mathematical methods of how we propagate the backwards propagation. And I'm sure somebody out there's already solved this, but I'm not talking about changing the world, but I'm kind of trying to get my head around AI and get better. There is also something very fun about neural evolution, to be able to talk to normal people and talk about evolving an artificial intelligence. Just to see that on their face and talk about it is a lot of fun, and something that I wouldn't avoid. This is the output I've got. I've ended up with a lot more money when I'm doing the algorithmic trader, and this is an algorithmic trader that previously was very good at knowing when to quit a trade, but didn't make spectacular types of money. Now, semi-regularly, it actually really gets quite aggressive with a stock, as in it finds some sort of pace with it. It's been a massive improvement implementing neural evolution, and if you look at the minus numbers, are also quite small. I mean, the thing about this is when it says it lost -$7, say, the AI has been made to pay for buying the stock in the first place, so it's not entirely true it lost $7. It just didn't make back all the money of the stock. So even when you think that this is saying it lost money, it didn't really lose money. It would have gained money for the user, but it wouldn't have met what it's targeted and being aimed at. So my version of the neural evolution, I'm using multiple geometrical shapes, so it's not just one. Like it's more towards what I would call the HyperNEAT algorithm, and less towards the NEAT. It uses multiple different treatments, and those treatments are applied on every single level. I've got all the previous work that I've done so far, and it's been tested against the whole New York Stock Exchange history. I'm fairly confident that it does fairly well. I don't really know what the baseline of, say, a hedge fund is to sort of say whether it does better, but I'm starting to suspect that it does better. So my idea and selling point for using this neural network over, say, a banker and a hedge fund is most internet shares company will sell your data to high frequency traders. So if you put in a stop to say, I will cease trading on, if the value goes below this, then that information is possibly taken by your broker and sold on to somebody else, and this will be in your terms and conditions, but it doesn't feel very ethical, does it? This being a black box model, you would just tell you to sell the trade, and you wouldn't be putting it in advance. You wouldn't be highlighting that you were going to do a short before you made the action. I would like this idea of maybe doing it as some sort of service or open source project. If I can prove that it's better than a banker, and I keep on adding to it, I've still got more ideas to put into it, and you'll probably still get a few more videos on this before I say, well, that's done. But my sort of idea comes about this, that I kind of feel that there is a bit of a system death going on. I mean, I'm well aware of the GameStop trade stuff, which I find hilarious, but whether it is, and some people will say it's a huge waste of money. But I kind of feel there's a system death of the traditional banking system at the moment, and I kind of think that we should maybe actually embrace this and say this is a good thing. The reason I say this is a good thing is this is what the World Economic Forum. So, I kind of feel that if a bunch of capitalists are coming out with what looks like propaganda to say you'll own nothing, which is communism, but as far as I'm concerned, and you'll be happy, I feel that we might have a problem with our bankers when our bankers don't want us to own anything. I also think that this neural evolution brings an interesting GPRD and ethics problem. So neural evolution to me seems to be the best way of creating a neural network, and there seems to be an issue that people haven't really grasped yet, that this is the hardest thing to explain to a non-specialist. An evolved neural network that is a black box AI doing something which is far more efficient than any person that's built this model, that's not easy to explain to somebody who doesn't understand what's going on. And I kind of want to bring up the idea of ethics here, that to sort of really hit home that how would you feel if somebody said, the computer says no, you can't have that loan, and actually you can't have that loan, but it's a black box evolved AI and we can't really explain it to you. That's not right. But also at the same time, if the AI is better than the person, I mean, is it ethical that we all suffer? So there's a bit of a challenge here that I think companies need to get to grips with, using AI and making it so it's user-friendly and explainable to people. So I don't think when people think that AI is the death of the work person or the labourer, I think that's nonsense. I think you're going to have have a member of staff in. You probably can't get rid of that person. You need them there to explain the AI's decision, or at least review and talk to that person and go through why they didn't get that loan or why that didn't work. So I wouldn't try and explain AI to this guy. I'm just going to sum up. I just find this inexplicable. So if you've got any ideas of what I should do with this, any sort of advice, with the neural network I'm building, happy to hear about it. Would love to sort of get your point of view. That's it for me. Hope you're having a good day. If you'd like to like and subscribe, would be very much appreciated. And, hope you're having a good time in the pandemic. Thanks. Bye.